The divorce bill is the payment the EU demands from the UK as part of it leaving the 28-nation bloc. The terms of the divorce bill are still being discussed, and it's a major part of the current Brexit negotiations. Essentially, the process is an attempt to work out how much the UK needs to pay to cover its commitments to the EU. While it's not clear how big the UK's divorce bill will end up being, one thing is for sure: is going to be a lot of money. The UK government currently estimates that the final bill will be between £35 and £39 billion. However, the EU has been asking for at least £53 billion, so it could end up costing a lot more than the government currently estimates. In December 2017, Theresa May confirmed that the UK and EU had reached an agreement on the scope of commitments and methods for valuations and adjustments on those values. This resulted in Theresa May agreeing to pay a divorce bill of up to £39 billion. The total cost works out as essentially the amount the UK owes the EU minus what the EU owes the UK. Current estimates from the Office of Budget Responsibility estimate that after all calculations are complete, the UK will owe the EU £37.1 billion. This payment is based on two parts: payment towards the EU's budget and outstanding commitments. As an EU member, the UK has agreed to a lot of rules and laws, including signing up to the EU's budget framework. The EU's budget works in 7-year periods, and the most recent budget was agreed in 2014. Therefore, the current budget period lasts through to 2020. This means that when the UK leaves the EU, likely in 2019, they will still have to pay their remaining share of the budget. And this isn't going to be a small amount of money. The UK is one of the largest contributors to the EU budget, with the UK paying 13.5% of the EU's budget back in 2016. The UK has agreed that it does have continued financial obligations to the EU, and it has promised not to leave any other country out of pocket in the current EU budget period. But of course the budget isn't the end of what the UK owes the EU. In the past, the UK has also agreed to fund a large number of other EU projects. The UK is still responsible to pay whatever it promised initially, as long as the project is completed by 2030. This means the UK will continue to pay for projects taking place in the EU for years after leaving. However, the reverse is also true, meaning EU nations would have to continue to pay what they promised towards EU projects based in the UK. The way the divorce bill works means the payment won't all be due immediately. In fact, the UK will still be paying the EU in 2064. According to the Office of Budget Responsibility, about 45% will be paid in the first 2 years. Then another 48% will be paid by 2028. The final 7% will be paid between 2029 and 2064. The final section will cover all of the last financial commitments, such as paying towards the pensions of EU staff. However, none of this is set in stone. As the UK and EU keep saying, nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. Meaning that until the entire Brexit negotiations are complete, nothing is certain, including the divorce bill. Those in favour of Brexit are very fond of saying that the UK isn't legally required to pay anything to the EU. And this is absolutely true. There's nothing in Article 50 that necessarily requires a payment. However, if Britain did say no to paying a divorce bill, the EU wouldn't be willing to make deals on other issues. This would lead to the UK leaving the EU without any deals, which could be very bad news. If you want to find out more about what this would mean for the UK, we have a whole video about that, link in the description. However, threatening not to pay the divorce bill can act as a bargaining chip for the UK. The EU certainly doesn't want to see the UK leaving without paying. This has been proved by the Brexit Secretary David Davis saying that the UK would refuse to pay the divorce bill unless the EU backs down on its demands that Northern Ireland should stay aligned with EU rules. There's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding the Northern Ireland border, as well as the continued relationship between the UK and EU. To find out more about both, check out our other videos in the Explaining Brexit series. And while you're at it, make sure to subscribe to be kept up to date with the latest news and politics.